The screen door hung crooked on one hinge, and that's what Marcus noticed first. 73 years old, hands that still remembered how to field strip a rifle in the dark. But Raymond Torres couldn't fix a simple door anymore. Not with his grandson's boyfriend living in his house. Not with the way Kyle watched his every move, counted every dollar, questioned every phone call. "You're imagining things, abuelo," Maya would say, her voice too bright, her smile cracking at the edges like old porcelain. 22 years old and working 2 jobs to support a man who'd never held one for more than 3 months. Raymond knew about men like Kyle. He'd fought alongside them in Vietnam, the ones who took extra rations, who blamed others for their mistakes, who got mean when someone challenged their authority. The difference was, in the jungle, there were consequences. Here, in this peeling rental house on Meridian Street, Kyle had made himself king of a kingdom of 2, an aging veteran with a bad hip, and a granddaughter who'd convinced herself that love was supposed to hurt a little. The August heat pressed down like a wool blanket. Raymond sat at the kitchen table, waiting for his coffee to cool, watching the morning light catch the dust motes that danced in the shaft of sun through the window. His service photo hung on the wall, 23 years old, jaw tight, eyes that hadn't yet seen what was coming. He heard Kyle before he saw him. The heavy footsteps, the sigh of inconvenience, the refrigerator opening and closing with too much force. "Coffee's old," Kyle said, not looking at Raymond. "Made it 20 minutes ago." "Tastes like shit anyway?" Kyle poured it down the sink, the brown liquid swirling away. He was still wearing yesterday's clothes, still smelled like the bar. "Maya leave money?" Raymond's fingers tightened around his mug. "She left grocery money. For groceries." "Yeah, well, my truck needs gas. I got a job interview." The lies didn't even have weight anymore. They floated between them like the dust in the sunlight, insubstantial, temporary, forgotten by the time they landed. "There's no money, Kyle." The silence stretched. Raymond watched Kyle's jaw work, watched his hands curl into fists, then release. This was the dance they did now. The old man saying no. The young man deciding whether today was the day he stopped pretending to respect his girlfriend's grandfather. "The fuck did you just say to me?" Raymond kept his voice level, the way he'd learned to do when someone was pointing a weapon at you. "I said there's no money. Maya needs it for—" The mug shattered before Raymond understood Kyle had moved. Coffee spread across the yellow linoleum like a stain, like something wounded and bleeding out. Kyle's hand was still extended, still vibrating with the force of the backhand that had sent the ceramic flying. "You senile old fuck," Kyle said, and his voice was soft now, which was worse. "Sitting in my house, drinking my coffee, talking to me like I'm some punk kid. This is Maya's house, her name on the lease." The first punch caught Raymond across the jaw. The second drove into his ribs. He tried to stand, tried to remember the hand-to-hand combat training from 5 decades ago. But his body was 73 and betrayed him. His hip gave out. He went down hard, his head cracking against the table's edge on the way to the floor. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard Kyle breathing heavy above him, heard the refrigerator's hum, heard a mourning dove calling from somewhere outside, heard something else, small, terrified breathing from the hallway. Little Danny, Maya's sister's boy, staying with them for the summer. 7 years old with asthma and nightmares and a gap in his front teeth. "Go back to bed, Danny," Raymond tried to say, but the words came out wrong, slurred. Blood in his mouth, copper taste, Vietnam taste. Kyle saw the boy and smiled. Not a nice smile. "Hey, buddy, your grandpa fell down. Clumsy old guys, you know." Danny's face was paper white. His Spider-Man pajamas were too big, the bottoms pooling around his bare feet. In his arms, he clutched the stuffed elephant Raymond had won him at the county fair, the one with the button eye hanging by a thread. "I saw you," Danny whispered. Kyle's smile flickered. "Saw what, little man?" "I saw you hit him." The air in the kitchen changed. Raymond could feel it from the floor, could see it in the way Kyle's shoulders went rigid, in the way his hands slowly curled into fists again. "Danny," Raymond said, tasting blood, "go to your room. Lock the door. Call—" "Shut the fuck up." Kyle didn't turn around. He was looking at Danny now, really looking at him, and Raymond recognized the calculation happening behind his eyes. How much did the kid see? Would he tell Maya? Would she finally believe? Danny took a step backward into the hallway, then another. Kyle followed. "Where you going, buddy? We should talk about what you think you saw." Raymond tried to stand. His body screamed at him. His vision swam. But he got to his knees, got one hand on the table, hauled himself up like climbing out of a foxhole. "Kyle, he's a child. Leave him." The backhand caught him again. He went down harder this time, and the kitchen tilted, and the dust motes in the sunlight multiplied, became a galaxy of spinning light. Through the fog, he heard Danny running, heard the front door slam open, heard his small voice high and terrified, shouting into the street, "Help! Please! He hit my grandfather!" 3 blocks away, Jake Priest Morrison was pouring coffee from a gas station thermos when his phone buzzed. The leather cut he wore, black, weathered, patches earned over 23 years with the Iron Saints MC, creaked as he reached for the cell. The text was from Sarah Mendez, the elementary school teacher who lived on Meridian. The Iron Saints had escorted her to court twice. When her ex violated the restraining order, she'd learned to recognize trouble. Kid in street screaming for help. 412 Meridian. White male 20s in doorway looking for him. Priest didn't hesitate. He keyed his radio. Church, need bodies at 412 Meridian. Possible domestic. The response was immediate. 3 blocks away. 5 blocks. 7. The sound of engines firing up. A sound like thunder rolling in from a clear sky. By the time Priest kicked his Harley to life, he had 6 brothers en route. By the time he hit Meridian Street, he had 12. Danny was hiding behind Mrs. Chen's hedge when he heard them. It started as a feeling more than a sound, a vibration in his chest, like when Abuelo played his bass-heavy records from the war times. Then the sound came low and rolling, growing louder, and Danny peeked through the leaves and saw them. Motorcycles. Huge ones. Chrome catching the morning sun like mirrors, like shields. Like something from a movie his mom said he was too young to watch. The first one to arrive was the biggest man Danny had ever seen. His arms were covered in pictures, tattoos, Abuelo called them, and his beard was shot through with gray. He swung off his bike with a grace that seemed impossible for someone his size, and his eyes swept the street until they found Danny in the hedge. "You the one who called for help, son?" Danny couldn't speak. He nodded. The big man's expression softened. He crouched down, making himself smaller, and Danny saw something in his eyes that looked like his grandfather's eyes when he talked about the war. Something old and sad, and very, very serious. "Is someone hurt?" Danny's voice came out as a whisper. "My abuelo. Kyle hit him. He's inside." More motorcycles arrived. 10, 12, 15. They lined the street like a wall, their engines rumbling in a way that made Danny's ribs vibrate. Men and women climbed off, all wearing the same leather vests with the same patches. They moved like Abuelo's old unit pictures, coordinated, purposeful, serious. The big man stood. He looked at the crooked screen door, at the house where Kyle had appeared in the doorway, cell phone in hand, fake smile on his face. "Everything okay out here?" Kyle called, his voice friendly, confused. "Little guy gave us a scare running out like that." Priest walked toward the house. Behind him, his brothers and sisters fanned out, forming a semicircle in the street. Their boots on the pavement sounded like drum beats. "Step outside," Priest said. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "Step outside." Kyle's smile flickered. "Look, I don't know what the kid told you, but he's got an imagination. His grandfather fell. I was helping." "Outside. Now." Something in Priest's voice left no room for argument. It was the voice of a man who'd stood in burning buildings and pulled children from wreckage, who'd buried brothers, who'd made promises to the dying and kept them. It was a voice that said, the time for lies had ended. Kyle stepped onto the porch. He was trying to look confident, but his hands were shaking. "This is private property. You can't—" "Where's the old man?" "He fell. Like I said, he's fine." "Show me." "I don't have to show you shit. I'm calling the cops." "Good," Priest said. "Call them. We'll wait." Behind him, a woman with silver hair and a scar across her cheek stepped forward. Reaper, they called her. She'd been an army nurse in Desert Storm. She looked at Kyle with the clinical detachment of someone who'd seen 1,000 men like him. "Victim inside is a 73-year-old veteran with a documented heart condition," she said, reading from her phone. "Called this morning by his neighbor with concerns about his granddaughter's boyfriend moving in. Boyfriend Kyle Anthony Zimmerman, age 24, arrested twice for bar fights. Restraining order from previous girlfriend." Kyle's face went white. "How do you—" "We look after our own," Priest said. "Veterans, kids, people who can't protect themselves." He took another step forward. Kyle took a step back, bumping into the door frame. "You know what we don't tolerate?" Kyle didn't answer. "Men who hit old men. Men who scare children." "I didn't—" "Danny?" Priest called, not taking his eyes off Kyle. "Is this the man who hit your grandfather?" From behind Mrs. Chen's hedge, Danny's small voice carried across the morning air. "Yes." That one word shifted everything. The bikers went still. The air went heavy. Somewhere down the street, a dog stopped barking. Priest climbed the porch steps. Kyle backed into the doorway, and Priest followed, and Kyle kept backing up until he was in the kitchen, until he saw what they all saw. Raymond Torres on the floor, blood on his face, trying to push himself up with shaking arms. "Sir," Priest said, and his voice was gentle now. "We're with the Iron Saints. We're here to help." Raymond looked up at the big man in leather, at the woman with the scar kneeling beside him, at the wall of bikers filling his doorway. Something in his eyes that had been hard and enduring for months finally cracked. "He won't leave," Raymond whispered. "Maya thinks she loves him." "He's leaving today," Priest said. "Reaper?" The silver-haired woman was already on her phone. "Ambulance en route. Police right behind them." Kyle tried to run. He made it 3 steps before 2 bikers filled the doorway, not touching him, not threatening, just standing there, immovable as mountains. "You can wait for the cops here," Priest said, "or you can wait in the street where everyone can see you. Your choice." Kyle chose the street. He stood on the porch, surrounded by 15 bikers who said nothing, did nothing, just watched him with the patient intensity of people who'd learned that sometimes presence was enough. Sometimes you didn't need to throw a punch to make a man understand he'd lost. The ambulance took Raymond to Mercy General. Danny rode with him, holding his hand, the stuffed elephant tucked under one small arm. The paramedics said he'd be okay. Bruised ribs, mild concussion, but okay. Maya arrived as the police were putting Kyle in the cruiser. She saw the bikers first, her face going pale, then saw her grandfather on the gurney, then saw Kyle in handcuffs, and she understood. "Abuelo." "He's going to be fine," Priest said. "Kid saved his life, called for help." Maya looked at Danny in the ambulance, at her small nephew who'd been braver than she'd been for 8 months, and something in her face broke and rebuilt itself in the same moment. "I didn't know," she said, but it sounded like a lie, even to her. Priest's expression was neutral. "People know. They just don't always want to see." He pulled a card from his pocket. "We run a support group. Tuesdays. Victims of domestic violence. Former victims, I should say." He handed it to her. "You're not alone. You were never alone." Maya took the card with shaking fingers. The ambulance pulled away, Danny's small face visible in the back window. Priest watched it go, then turned to his brothers and sisters. "Let's ride." They mounted up, engines roaring to life in a cascade of thunder. As they pulled away from Meridian Street, Priest looked back once. Maya was standing in the yard, the card in her hand, watching them go. He'd seen that look before, the look of someone who'd just been shown that escape was possible, that courage could come from unexpected places, that sometimes salvation arrived on motorcycles with the morning sun glinting off chrome. 3 months later, Raymond Torres walked into the Iron Saints clubhouse with Danny at his side. The boy was wearing a miniature leather vest, no patches yet, but Priest had a feeling that would change. Raymond's ribs had healed. His hip would never be the same. But he walked straighter now. "Wanted to thank you," Raymond said. "Properly." Priest shook his hand. "How's your granddaughter?" 6 weeks sober, job at the hospital. She's getting there." "And Kyle?" 18 months, assault, elder abuse, child endangerment. Raymond's jaw tightened. "Should have been more." "It's never enough," Priest agreed. "But it's something." Danny tugged on Priest's vest. When the big man crouched down, the boy whispered, "When I grow up, can I ride a motorcycle?" Priest looked at Raymond, who nodded. "When you grow up," Priest said, "you come find me. We'll talk about it." As they left, Reaper appeared at Priest's shoulder. "You thinking what I'm thinking? That Danny's going to be a prospect someday? That we need to do more of this. Neighborhood patrols, school escorts." Priest watched the old man and the small boy walk to their car, watched Raymond's hand rest protectively on Danny's shoulder. He thought about the call from Sarah Mendez, about the kids screaming in the street, about the 15 minutes between that scream and their arrival. 15 minutes that could have ended differently. "Yeah," he said, "we do more." The Iron Saints MC expanded their community protection program that fall. They partnered with schools, domestic violence shelters, veteran services. They didn't tell many people, didn't need press, didn't want glory. They just rode when the call came. They just showed up. They just stood between the vulnerable and the darkness, because that's what brothers and sisters did. Because some things are worth protecting. And because a 7-year-old boy with a stuffed elephant and more courage than most grown men had shown them that sometimes all it takes to change everything is one person brave enough to scream for help. And someone brave enough to answer